Hello.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. Just had some quick lunch. Very late lunch. It's been a very hectic day, but all good. How about you?
It's Friday,
Yeah.
and it's Friday for you, so I'm hoping we can end the week on a good note here and talk about some Valheim, a game I'm sure both of us love very much.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good.
So this is currently being broadcasted on Twitch. So that's twitch.tv/moregamingteam, and if you're unaware, this is one-on-one. I basically interview people in the Valheim community. I've done quite a few big builders, and this is the first time I've ever done something with an Iron Gate dev, so welcome, Jonathan. It's great having you. So the purpose of this interview is just basically to learn more about Valheim and the future of the game, and kind of just to delve a little bit more into what your guys' thought
Hello.
processes are.
Um.
Can you still hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, you disappeared there for a second. Now I heard you again.
Good old
Yeah. I just.
Discord.
Yeah. Classic. I just heard you said the first time you do something, and then I didn't hear anymore.
Oh yeah, I was just saying it's the first time we've ever done an interview with an Iron Gate dev, so we're very happy to have you.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, let me just get the questions pulled up here. All right, here we are. So do you want to just go ahead and jump into it, or maybe do you want to chat for a minute or two? Have you guys been
It's up
super
to you,
busy
really. I
with
mean.
Ashlands, or just kind of taking it easy lately, or spending time with the
Um.
rest of the team?
Yeah. I mean, it's been pretty hectic, to be honest. Like, I mean. Gearing up for release, like the whole PTB and the release, and also after the release, we've had. I mean, there's been quite like nothing major, so that's been really good in a lot of ways. But it's definitely been a lot of small things here and there that need tweaking and fixing and stuff. So, been mostly focusing on that, and at the same time trying to also planning like going through starting on the next stuff, but also like we're also gonna try to take it like have some kind of celebration, just like meet up and do some fun stuff too together. So yeah, it's a mix of everything, but it's been pretty hectic. We really need to kind of probably should take some days off or do something else too.
Yeah, people seem to forget that, Valheim is a game, and of course we all want it to come out as quickly as possible, but people forget the human aspect to it. That there's people on the other side making this game based on their passions. They're not trying to just rush out a finished product. So I'm glad that you guys are taking the time to rest and get recharged for what comes next.
Yeah, I mean we want to. It's I guess the problem is we do it a bit, but we should I don't know. Sometimes I think we should probably do it more. But yeah, I guess it's also because we just finished Ashlands, and yeah, I think we're all pretty. Right. No, I'm not gonna say we're all pretty tired, but some of us are pretty tired, and we do need a bit of a break maybe. But it's also getting to be summer, so it's really nice. Like you have I've had some really nice weeks of weather here, and just like the weekends, taking it easy. Yeah, it's really nice.
Is Sweden really nice in the summer?
Yeah, for sure. It's the best. I mean, it's the best part of 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 the year, but I would also like argue it's I don't know, I haven't been in every country, but I think it's probably one of the nicer summers to have too because it's nice and warm, but it's not overly hot, so you can actually enjoy the heat. And I mean, some summers could be better, but um, there are also some rainy days and stuff like that, so you can enjoy like being you can enjoy the heat, and it's really nice and green, and you go swimming all the time, and you're out in the forest and stuff. So yeah, I think it's really nice.
Sounds beautiful. So, before I start this, I just want to bring up something real quick. These questions are community submitted, so they're not just from our group. They're from our group, Kaizen's group, and Emma T. Potato's group. So, three
Yeah,
different Valheim groups submitted questions for this event.
yeah.
So we'll try to get through them as quickly as possible. I know you probably are excited to start your weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I can't go on too long actually. So I have My daughter is behind me. She just had her 7th birthday, and she's playing Valheim in Hammer, or pretty much creative mode, behind me, and we're gonna have a little celebration for her after this. So
That's awesome.
so
Happy birthday to her.
yeah, they say happy birthday to you, Anya. The the people I'm talking to. Yeah. And yeah. So yeah. But just go ahead.
All right. So first question: can we get a dye station or make it possible for recipes to have differing colors, as we have the different color banners, but not rugs, curtains, or beds?
Yeah. I mean, no, not yeah, but I mean that's an interesting idea. As for like ideas go, I'm definitely not going to promise anything here.
Of course, this is all
But
just
but
us two discussing. I assume nothing, no answers that you give today would be concrete in any way of something that you guys are deciding on behind the
yeah, I mean,
scenes.
I mean, I could of course talk about some stuff, but there's always there's a chance that like I mean nothing is set in stone for us either, so it's always yeah when it's there then you have it. But I mean, I
Understood.
don't think it's definitely an interesting idea to solve, and then exactly how we would solve it, I'm not sure. Like because we don't want to how do you say fill up the build pieces so that there's too many, so that like everything we add to the game needs to have a purpose somehow. And and of course there are a few pieces that you could argue, well, they don't really serve so much of a purpose, but we try to minimize like the amount of like just say extra pieces. But it would be nice to be able to uh, to give some variation and coloring in different ways, and we have discussed it in different times. So it is something that I hope that we will do. Um, I don't know when, and I don't know exactly which like pieces, if it's like which building pieces it would be. But it's definitely interesting to explore.
That's a really good answer. So the next question is: in the in-game, do you think there will ever be room for a mid-level transmog station, something to change the look of your armor and weapons based on another item slotted in the device?
I don't think we will be doing transmog, but you never know. But I know we've discussed that too. But I think that's like I know it's kind of a common thing in a lot of MMOs, and I guess it makes sense for games like that. But even though people play Valheim a lot, and I mean, in some ways, kind of play like a little MMO, but I mean, yeah, when we've discussed it, we don't really feel that it fits Valheim in that way. So it's probably something more suited to be a mod.
Is that because you guys are wanting just every armor and weapon gear item to just kind of stand on its own, Whereas when you physically look at a character and you see them wearing that gear, you know exactly what they're using. Depending on what tier you're at. Like if you're at a higher tier, you know what's lower than you. So basically, just
Yeah, I mean,
confusion, like with the transmog items, or
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not sure what how. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's more like, is there a reason to put it in? Like, is there a reason that does it make the game better? Like, or does it look wonky if like, oh, people can run around with it looks like it's the level 1 gear, but it's
exactly.
actually the last gear. And like I understand that people want to be able to look different, and not everybody wants to look the same, and I think that's uh, a good thing. But at the same time, it kind of like, since if it looks like you're wearing a certain gear, that's the gear you should be wearing, like functionally. And you're more than, I mean, in the game, people can change, and you can use old gear those times you want to look differently. So I think it's more straightforward usage. Like, yeah,
And
looks like you have an
mhm.
armor on, then that's the armor that you should be wearing.
You guys put in the armor stands as well. I'm guessing because you want people to collect them and put them on display, instead of having them change what gear and what it looks like and what its stats are based on what you put in the transmog station. It makes more sense to just be able to, have them around your house and have your friends take a look at them and be intrigued. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's yeah, I think it's nice to have, instead of just packing everything up in boxes. Like, it's a typical thing you would see in a medieval kind of a setting,
Right.
where you put up an armor or something, or yeah, Viking suits and stuff. So Yeah, that's a nice thing to add, I think.
So speaking of things kind of looking different, we had a submitted question about, is there ever going to be a different type of build hammer or an upgraded build hammer for the game? Because I noticed everything else has kind of like its higher tier aspects, weapons, even the items you buy at the trader, you know, they kind of scale, like you don't get the belt until later in the game. Is there any behind the scenes talk of maybe adding an additional hammer to the game?
I mean, there is. You can upgrade it to level 3 or something like that. But other than that, like, what would you want to see on the upgraded hammer other than like durability? Like, what is it? How would a better hammer be better?
They were thinking maybe just add additional effects like increased stamina regen when building, um, maybe even making it look different, like we were discussing with the rugs and the beds earlier. Just
Yeah.
basically basically giving builders, the people who spend all their time building on their server, just give them something like a fighter would have, being able to mix around what items and tools they use and what they look like.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Fair point. And I do think, I mean, we did add the like home item base, like the stamina use, like things for the Hilder items.
Right.
So it could. It's not a it's not a bad idea to consider that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Will there ever be another human faction besides the Divergers that is hostile to the Vikings in Valheim, or will it always just be you and the Divergers versus the world?
Um. I I I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, you never know. If we, there isn't like a grand master plan where we have everything figured out, but uh, but
It's not
nothing
something
nothing
that. Okay.
nothing that is planned at the moment. I mean, we just released Ashland, so of course, like anything going into Deep North, we probably won't be talking much about like details about it yet because there's still a lot of things we have to figure out internally there as well, and like. So that being said, like we don't have any planned other faction.
Can I kind of piggyback off that question, because I kind of want to get your thoughts on this? Because when Mistlands dropped and you guys introduced the Divergers into the game, I feel like it kind of came out of left field a little bit. No one was expecting other NPCs in the game. Can you just shortly go over like what your guys' thought process was in including them in the game?
Um, I think that was quite a while ago now, so I don't actually remember all the discussions because we do have a lot of discussions going forward and back with a lot of stuff. But I know that initially there was this idea of the dungeons in the Mistlands was going to be like kind of like dwarven caves, like little underground cities and stuff where some dwarves have been like mining out stuff and like kind of like the Lord of the Rings, like we dug too deep kind of a thing.
Yep.
So I think that's where it came from. And then the dungeon ended up like we ended up going in a different direction there. But because of that, I think we kind of kept them and we had this other okay, they're more on the surface and let's make it. It's more like let's make it interesting. Let's make them neutral. Um, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it was probably more of a discussion between at the time. I think Robin and Richard. Um, but that's pretty much what I remember from those discussions.
Appreciate it. Do you intend to add or extend skills in the game, like allowing players to become like a farmer, a blacksmith, an animal tamer, a builder, just to allow players to like have more group play and immersion in Valheim, or are the skills where they'll be for the rest of the game until it reaches 1.0?
It's one of those things that we've discussed. We haven't really decided on. I think that there's. I think that we would. Um, it would be a good idea to have a few more skills for the other players, like for the people like builders, like you say, or people staying home in the base farming and stuff. The problem there is how do you make a skill that scales well and like how should you say that isn't just exploitably easy to level up. And like, I mean, even that, and that it's also fine, even if it's you can exploit it because you could kind of do that with any skill. But more like, how do you? There has to be like a meaningful way to make every skill point that you feel, oh, now I'm better at building. Like, but how do you actually feel better at building? Besides like giving them a small percentage of less stamina use, which is a little bit boring to be honest. So it's more like finding a good way of designing it. And there are some ideas on some of them, like cooking, for example. How would you increase your cooking? Like, what would the result be of having an increased cooking skill? There are some ideas, but none of them have been like completely perfect yet, I would say.
Maybe with the cooking skill, when you go to cook an item, maybe you get more materials when you cook it, or you use less materials when you make it, or it gives you additional, like you said, additional stamina regen, even more health. Than if you're someone without a cooking skill cooked it, they just get the standard stats on the food item. Whereas if someone was a better cook, they'd probably make a better food item and get better stats from it.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean some of those ideas, like that's kind of the things that have been tossed around. But one of the problems there is like, say that the recipe creates one item, and then okay, at what point of a new level is it going to create two? Because then it's like actually doubling the item, and like there won't be a difference between level 20 and 21, or level
That makes
20 and
sense.
25. So that's what I mean with scalable, and that's why like things that have, yeah, like the decimal points matter. Like it's more difficult with like integers, or like you need, like if you think about the design, like if you have levels 1 to 100, it should feel that each level actually does something that feels fairly meaningful. Otherwise, there's no reason to have this skill.
Will
So
Valheim ever see improvements to the peer-to-peer connection, like the issues with people experiencing desync? Will you guys ever think about moving maybe to a client-server model to kind of get everybody at the same network connection? Is that something you guys are discussing on the back end?
I highly doubt that we would change that. Like, it wouldn't really make sense. I mean, if Valheim was a live service game that was gonna be built on forever, then maybe that would be done. But Valheim will be finished at some point, and like it hopefully will receive, like, say, updates after that, and like and so on. But it's not an MMO or a live service in that way. So it doesn't really make sense to rebuild huge parts of it, and the networking, of course, is a very big part of the game. That being said, there are some areas where we could improve the current system to make it to make it work better with what we have. So that's something that we
Yep.
could do in the future, hopefully.
So, what was the inspiration behind a Viking themed world? Did you guys discuss, like, when you guys were coming to the table for Valheim? What made you guys decide to go with Valheim and the lore that you guys chose from it? Did you guys actually just pick that from, Old Norse mythology, or were you guys just big fans of it, or are there people possibly within the group who actually follow that religion?
That would have to be a question to Richard, our founder. Like, he started this project by himself, and I mean, before anybody else was involved, he started this up like quite a few years ago now. And I don't know the exact reason why, so yeah, I'd rather just skip that question rather than making something up,
Oh, no
or
problem at all.
guessing. Yeah.
Are there any plans for possible servers that could hold more people, possibly with expanded world size?
Um, you mean just like player count wise?
Yep.
Um, I mean, it's not something that we like. Like the game has its. I mean, we've set it to 10 players, and it's easy enough for any mod to change that, since it's just one number in one place. It's
Right.
a very, very easy thing to change. But I mean,
So it seems like you guys don't want
balance
to. Go
wise and
ahead.
progression wise, if we would say, oh, it's a 20-player game all of a sudden, then it doesn't really hold up anymore, because I mean, the balance as it is now, it is best. I mean, arguably best for either one player or a small group of friends, like say 4 or 5 people. Even now, if you're 10 people battling a boss, it is really, it's not really perfectly balanced. And if we would all of a sudden have 20 players, then it's of course going to be even less balanced. So we'd have to do a lot of work to rebalance stuff. And like network-wise, who knows like how many people would work well. So I think it's like it's easy enough to mod it. Like I mean, possibly if it was ever opened up, so you could actually just like config it yourself and choose, just open it up maybe. But I really don't think. I mean, we won't redesign the game to include more players.
That makes a lot of sense. And you've mentioned a few times that you guys are aware of mods. Are you guys just trying to see what the mods are adding to the game and just trying to steer clear of those areas, or are you guys looking at the mods for ideas to make improvements to the game?
I would say none of those. Like I know some people think that oh something showed up in the game and there was a mod for it, so like some people would be like oh they took that from a mod, but uh, um, and it's also like I would say it's not that we either copy and we don't either stay clear of things. It's more like we build a game that we want to build. In some cases, those are things that there might be a mod for already, and in some cases not. But I think the modding community is great. Like I'm a huge supporter. I started out as a modder in my like game development career, and I think modding is great and it's really impressive what everybody has done. And I think it's a really important part of the game. But we're at Iron Gate are focused on building the base like vanilla experience, putting things in that match like what the original kind of vision of the game is, and mods can expand on that and like can make it crazy in a bunch of different ways if people like if you opt into that. But like we're mainly just focused on okay, what can we make the best game that we can make this way, and then it's also of course interesting. I mean, we also don't officially have mod support, but at the moment since we're focusing on making the game, but at some point it would be nice to have better mod support as well.
You play. I'm guessing you play the game quite a bit in your free time, or do you tend
Yeah,
to play other games because you work on Valheim a lot?
I mean, I always try to play quite a few other games to keep like my design head fresh and just like stay in the loop of what's happening on in different games in the market and so on. But I do play quite a bit of Valheim as well. Not as like it goes a little bit like comes and goes a bit, but since my kids have started playing now, I do actually play quite a bit with them, and they're like nagging me to play with them quite a bit. So
So one of the questions that was asked was, how do you find the motivation to build and create in Valheim when you're essentially burned out?
you mean like building in the actual game
Yeah,
or building on the game?
building in the actual game and finding the motivation to be creative.
You mean while playing the game?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, I think it's. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's a really nice game to work on because it's. I think it's one of the few types of games that it's open-ended enough that it doesn't get repetitive like so fast. So even though I spend like all my days working on stuff, um, when I'm actually sit down and actually just play it to enjoy it, I mean, that's a very different thing than actually working on the game. So of course I've seen everything a million times and listened to the music a million times, but it's still like you can still really enjoy it sometimes. Um, and when like for example I'm playing with my kids, and then we're usually just building stuff because they're kind of young, so we don't really want them to do all the monsters and stuff yet. Um, so it's just really fun to see what they do and build something together and like run around and like yeah role play almost in the game.
So the next question is, will they add potatoes in the Deep North?
That's a good question. I have to think about that. Like, first I'd say like why not? But I know that like when were potatoes actually introduced? Like it's not like we're lore perfect or we're not trying to be like historically correct. But certain things I know that like certain things have come up and people are like, yeah, let's do this, and they're like, in Viking times there was nothing like this and this, and I'm not good enough to say when potatoes were introduced, but weren't they not part of Viking culture? I think.
Yeah, they were a big part of Irish culture, and there were actual famines in Ireland where literally thousands of people died because they ran out of potatoes. So maybe not so much in a Viking themed game, but I know that a
Yeah.
lot of people love their potatoes.
Yeah, I have like a small memory of actually talking about this because we have like Josephine, our community manager. She's really she like does reenactments and stuff, and she's probably the one of us that knows best about like what is and what isn't goes into Viking culture and so on. And just like a quick googling here, I have to check it because I seem to remember we might have talked about this before, but my quick googling on this just says that Vikings did not have potatoes, tomatoes, or sweet corn because they did not arrive until the 15th century in Europe. So it might be a lower the chance that we do that. But that being said, it's not like we are historically accurate anyway, so you never know.
Did they not have any other root vegetables besides potatoes?
Yeah, I
Beets,
think they did.
maybe?
Like, and this goes to my very limited historical knowledge, but like I think in school, I mean, I do remember there was some beets and if I remember correctly, I mean, I think in Sweden we had like beets and things like that to make. Yeah, I'm
Well,
not
there.
sure. And then
Go ahead.
again, like actually, when we look at all the things that we do eat in Valheim, I mean, I'm sure most of the things, a lot of the things, probably didn't really exist anyway. So who knows?
Will there ever be more belt options from the merchant, or is that belt the only belt we're going to get for the game?
Um, mm, Nothing planned at the moment, but you never know.
Okay.
And sorry that that's my answer for a lot of things, but that's kind of how we work. Like we always have a lot of ideas, but there's a lot of things that isn't really planned, especially now, like going right out of a big release. Now there's a lot of ideas, but not so many of them are decided yet.
It makes
So
sense, and I don't expect you to say something that you guys wouldn't, be concrete on yet.
yeah.
So that kind of this next question is kind of in the same vein. Are there any ideas of possibly adding another rideable creature after Ashlands?
Um, maybe. I mean, I don't. I think we. I don't think we want to. I mean, we do want to keep working on the game and working on updates, and I don't think that the latest one will be the last one.
Will we get more stacks that we could place down, like the wood stacks and the stone stacks, maybe for barley or flax?
Um, is it like? Is there a reason to?
I guess just for visual purposes, like when you're making your base and you have your storage area, you already have the wood stacks that you could place down. And in Vashlands, they just added the not skeleton, the bone stacks.
Yeah.
So they were wondering if that will possibly move on to other items so that we don't have to keep them in our chests.
Yeah. I mean, I think if there's a like if there's a design reason to do so, if you like end up having a large amounts of certain things, that's kind of why those stacks existed from the start. And I don't know, like I mean, if you start adding every single grain that you can grow, then you kind of need to have all of them, and then that's adding like a lot of stacks. So I don't know, maybe. I mean, it would be kind of nice to have like out on the fields to be able to put like like you dry the grass and stuff like that. That could be pretty cool. But nothing planned again.
All right, so we're actually at our last question. So this has actually gone really well. Once again, I appreciate your time, Jonathan. I know you're ready to get your weekend started. But final question: do you guys have any plans to go beyond what has already been achieved after early access ends? Do you guys have any plans after Valheim's done?
You mean like after 1.0, are we gonna keep working on
Yep.
the game?
Or are you
Yeah,
guys
that's a good
moving? Go
question.
ahead.
I mean, I would say like this: we don't like. There's no concrete plans that we are announcing in any way, but I would think like it's more like what do we want to do? Like it's more like we have to ask ourselves that, and we don't really know the answer to that because we're not there yet. Like we have to add another quite a big chunk of time before we're done with say Deep North and 1.0 and whatever else goes in there. So I think it's more like when we get there, how do we feel about the whole thing? But I'm fairly certain that we will be making more things after 1.0, and then in what capacity or what size, I don't know. Like we'll just have to see. But I mean, considering how well the game like has done, and the amount of players it has, like as long as there are people who, as long as there is a big chunk of people who are interested and keep playing, I think that it would be fun to keep working on the game and making something. But that being said, it will not be forever, and it won't be 100 updates, but hopefully at least a few nice updates after 1.0.
And then just kind of a for fun bonus question for the chat. Are there any Easter eggs that we haven't found yet in the game?
If there was, would I really tell you though?
I mean, it wouldn't be an Easter
And
egg.
also,
would
I
it?
don't know what you have found, so.
Well, that'll do it for today's one-on-one. Thank you, Jonathan, once again for joining me today, and as we discuss Valheim. I'd really love to be able to get you here again sometime. Maybe we could do a Valheim event, maybe a car race or something. But
Yeah,
we really
sure.
enjoyed having you, so thanks again.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
See you around.